Okay, so bit of context. We're working with a marketer at the moment, which is amazing. So hopefully you'll see a lot more of this type of content coming out of Coffs Coast CrossFit, be that podcasts, coaching information, members information, as much as we can really, which is pretty exciting for us. And we have attempted this in the past. A little bit of a journey of mine and Ethan's, but we're quite passionate about what we do, so sharing information comes, quite second nature to us, I suppose. First few podcasts might be a little bit awkward, but with a bit of a growth mindset towards it, hopefully we can improve it and start really channeling and plugging helpful topics for our listeners, I suppose. And the first few might take a little bit to get to that, but I'm sure once we've got some listeners on boards and a bit of feedback coming our way, we can really knuckle down on some of those helpful topics for our listeners.
Yeah.
So, hey Ethan, how are you?
Good.
Sweet. It's midday at Coffs Coast CrossFit, so you may hear our bellies rumble at some stage after this. We'll be getting lunch and debriefing, no doubt.
Yeah, it's pretty close to lunchtime.
So today, Ethan, I wanted to talk to you about programming philosophies, and then we can talk about our programming out of Coffs Coast CrossFit in some detail. But basically, you might want to kick us off how we got to where we are with our programming at Coffs Coast CrossFit.
Yeah, so our programming here stems around obviously more sustainable metrics. So essentially the main core of what we're trying to do is we're trying to make people fitter, healthier, stronger, better versions of themselves, but without any sort of time frame or limitation to it, future based. So this is a very sustainable practice where we're trying to improve people's lives, not only now but for as long as we can, and hopefully extend their lives for longer, based on what we're doing in the building, so that they're not necessarily injuring themselves, doing anything that's going to cause harm to that progression. So our programming philosophy itself really does stem around essentially longevity, function, and then better health, better fitness.
So the format that this podcast is going to run in today, listeners, will be myself, James, asking Ethan a lot of the questions. Ethan is the programming wizard. He has full autonomy over the affiliates program and where he takes the programming for our members. Huge responsibility, and it takes just so that you guys can grasp how much work goes into it, around about 10 hours a week. Just programming and providing information back to the coaches, back to the members, and making sure that everyone's happy. And obviously there's some feedback protocols in there that help also. So that's why you're hearing myself probably ask Ethan a lot of the questions. I'll elaborate where I can, but Ethan will do an amazing job of providing some context. So Ethan, how did we, what makes Coffs Coast CrossFit any different from other CrossFit gyms in regards to programming?
Yeah, so I'd like to think we're not, CrossFit in its essence was functional fitness performed at high intensity. I'd like to think what we do here is more of a holistic approach, being that we aren't boxing ourselves into any stereotypes or pre-designed sort of metrics when it comes to what CrossFit is. So if something's functional, we'll do it. So things like a curl, things like some isolation-based movements that you might not see in the traditional style format when it comes to CrossFit. So we're just branching out and making sure that we are using holistic methods so that we're grasping many sort of different angles on this bigger picture style of programming, where we are trying to encompass a lot of different methods essentially. So it is a strength and conditioning training method, and the program itself encompasses that. So we do a lot of strength bias stuff to start, and we might do some conditioning afterwards, and it does follow a similar program format to what you would see in a traditional CrossFit. And it is still traditional CrossFit, but we do branch off and we do things that are a little bit more sustainable in terms of building an all-rounded athlete or member or health, so that when we are doing things, we aren't just doing the same things and treating CrossFit like a sport per se, and more of a health and fitness methodology. If that makes sense.
So, desired outcome. Person, for example, walks into the gym, hopes to be doing CrossFit. Let's shed a bit of light on what we believe the programming will help them achieve, and in regards to direction, where the program might lead them to, and we're going to have lots of different types of people join this gym, which is amazing. That's what creates a community. But generally speaking, what's our desired outcome from our program?
Yeah, so our desired outcome from the programming is to improve health markers, essentially, right? So we're trying to improve someone's ability to function, and then all of the other health markers in relation to cardiovascular health, lung health, all of those sorts of things, where we're talking about someone's health moving beyond what it is in terms of performance-based metrics. So again, we do use performance-based metrics to measure things when it comes to health and fitness, but our main goal here is to help someone who struggles with weight lose weight, help someone who has some cardiovascular issues develop a better well-rounded health when it comes to their cardiovascular health. All of the above, even to the point of like improving things where we're talking about the ability to stand up out of a chair when you're 80, the ability to pick something up off the ground without hurting yourself, the ability to go to work and work in a trade and do what you need to do to earn a living without hurting yourself, and having a lifetime frame or a life limit on how far you can go with that, because you end up breaking down as you get older, or all of these things. So essentially our programming is stemmed around the ability to function, and all of the health markers associated with that as well, so that we can extend that ability to function, essentially, so that we're not deteriorating as we get a little bit older, and we're not losing that ability to get the most out of life, I suppose.
That's what I'd hope to achieve.
Yeah.
So Ethan, I think it's fair to say that generally speaking, with a potential lead that comes in that's looking to see what we do and achieve, we're focusing more so on the long-term aspects of their health and where they are health and fitness wise on their journey. We're looking at more of the decades approach than the 6-month wins.
Exactly. Looking at it as more of a lifestyle adjustment, so that their lives are the best it possibly can be and as healthy as they can be for as long as they can be, versus just coming in here and trying to lose weight in 6 months and then going back to old habits.
So, this happens consistently, but person walks in and wants very short-term results and wants to focus more on the sporting elements to CrossFit. What's our response there?
Yeah, I think it's still again a very holistic product, right? So you can still come in here and get what you need to out of the program in terms of performance-based results. So if you put in and you're consistent with a style of programming that is developing strength and fitness, you're going to get better fitness and strength, essentially. So there are elements to that where if you train hard and you push the limits in terms of what you're doing inside the walls, you can start to improve some of those performance metrics. And as a sport, we can facilitate that, right? Like, it does become a little bit more specific, and there are some additional stuff that needs to be applied when you are looking at it as a sport, not so much as a health and fitness methodology. But it varies by the amount of application, not necessarily the degree. So it's not so much what they're doing, it's more how much they're doing and how often they're doing it. So our programming is a 60-minute class for those that come in here and do it, for a health and fitness methodology, and that is enough. That's more than enough to get someone moving those health markers in the right direction, and to walk out of here feeling good, and to go and walk their dogs and feel fine and feel good, right? So, and then when you come to the sport element, there's other metrics that need to be overlaid into that, where it's like, now there's some sport specific stuff where we might need to do a little bit more of some ollie lifting, or we might need to do a little bit more specific gymnastics to work on specific tweaks and things that need to be adjusted so that that person can have a better performance when it comes to the sport versus the general overall better health and fitness outlay.
That's good. We'll end on this question actually. What do you think, Ethan, is the biggest misunderstanding when it comes to programming?
Biggest misunderstanding when it comes to programming is the harder you go, the more you get out of it. And it's not so much untrue, but it's just misapplied. So there are so many different elements to and there's so much science behind what goes into the programming, and there are times to taper back for a specific purpose, and there's times to push for a specific purpose. But I think there's this culture that's built up around more is better, harder is better, and we've somewhat developed a bit of a cortisol addiction as a result, and because of that we end up in burnout mode. We end up cooking ourselves. We end up doing stuff that is hard and intense over and over and over and over again, so that we end up in a state of just constant fight or flight mode. So there is a balancing effect to it, and there are different intents and stimuluses that we're trying to achieve, and some of it will be pace, some of it will be intense, some of it won't be as intense, some of it will be hard, some of it won't be as hard. It just all varies, but it is all adjusted based on what the intention is and what we're trying to develop out of it. And it is a very holistic thing, so it's not just more and harder is better.
That's great. Thanks for sharing, Ethan. Anyway, we hope that that little talk back and a few of those questions and answers do help educate people who might be programming for their own affiliate, people who are just starting out, people who want to program eventually, or even just someone who's interested in what goes into programming for a gym. Anyway, until we have our next subject, we hope that you enjoyed us sharing our program philosophies from out of Coffs Coast CrossFit. Until next time, cheers.
See ya.